Hello and welcome to the Handed Down podcast, where we celebrate traditional songs and the people that sing them. I'm Jenny Shaw and I'm joined today by singer and songwriter Vikki Appleton Fielden. Vikki, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me on.
You're welcome. It's great to have you on. Now, when I was introducing you, I kind of wanted to add the word comedian in there because you are an extremely... You're an extremely funny lady. So,
thank you.
I wondered how you would describe what you do in the music that you make.
I write a lot of funny songs. That's probably left over when I first started singing. I was going to a Scottish country dancing group once a week, and they decided to have every fifth Friday, because we met on Fridays, as a Ceilidh session. And I started singing. Everybody was supposed to do a party piece. So that's really when I started singing in front of people. And I wasn't too confident about my voice. So I thought, well, if I sing something funny, then even if my voice isn't too good, it will still be entertaining and it will be all right. And so that may be a legacy that I really like, writing things that are funny and that make people laugh. And I also started off, because I don't play an instrument and I just sing a cappella, I started off writing parodies because the tune was already there and I didn't make up tunes. I just stole tunes from stuff that already existed. And if you're writing a parody, you tend to want to make it funny.
And your parodies are extremely funny. I mean, I think when we first met at Stone's Barn, within about half an hour of meeting you, I was listening to one of your parody songs and just completely blown away. It was brilliant.
Well, thank you very much.
We'll talk in a little while a little bit more about your music, but I really want to jump into your song because it's not one that I know really at all. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. You've chosen an American song, Poor Boy. Why did you choose that song?
Well, it's a song that I almost don't remember not knowing. It's a song that my mother sang very, very often. So I just grew up knowing this song. My mother was very into folk music. She grew up in New York City and she went to the High School of Performing Arts. And when she was a teenager, she would go hang out in Greenwich Village and Central Park. And back then, Pete Seeger and Woody Guthrie were also hanging out there and playing songs, and young people were gathering around. So I think that may be where her introduction to folk music came from, aside from the folk music associated with Judaism, which is my family's religious background. So there would have been Jewish songs for holidays and culture and that kind of thing. But I think this was her introduction to American folk music, and she passed her love for folk music and dance along to me. And so this is one of the songs I really know the best.
That's just a wonderful musical culture to be able to grow up in, isn't it? She learned her folk music directly from, some of the greats, but also that wonderful tradition of Jewish music as well. Was music a big feature in your household then growing up?
It was. My mother played guitar and she was a dancer. So music is very important in dance as well. And she taught modern dance and she also taught international folk dance. So I was exposed to music from a lot of different cultures. And she also did drumming. She loved singing. She played guitar and she taught drumming. She had all kinds of percussion instruments at home, some that you've never seen before, as well as a bunch of African drums and again, instruments from just all kinds of cultures.
And what did you think of it as a child? Was it something that you were into? Were you into that kind of music?
I remember when I was a Girl Scout, they asked mothers to, you know how you earn badges for Girl Scouts, Girl Guides, and she offered to help a bunch of us do the badge on, I think it was folk music. So that's where I started learning some of her songs.
What's your earliest memory of the song? Is it from your mother? Do you remember her singing it to you?
My family would, especially during holiday get-togethers like New Year's Eve, or when we were all together and sitting around in an evening, we would sit and sing. The six of us, there were 4 kids and my mom and dad, and we would just sing, not necessarily folk music, maybe some of them, but show tunes. My dad loves show tunes, so I have a love of that as well as of folk music. That's how I learned to harmonize. I would hear my dad singing harmony and thinking, wow, that's really cool. How do you do that? And then just trying it and experimenting and sort of figuring out how to do it myself. They grew up in New York, as I mentioned, on West 98th Street. They lived across the street from each other, actually, but in big apartment buildings.
Yeah.
And West 98th Street is off of Broadway, and they both loved Broadway shows.
Were you singing the music of Broadway shows as well alongside the folk music?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
What a great combination.
And I think that may have had, the show tunes aspect may have had an influence on my songwriting, my lyric writing, because there's just a sense of being really precise and I really want it to scan properly, and also playing with the words.
Well, it's a wonderful musical education, isn't it?
It was, yes.
Yeah.
Arthur said his cousin Gav, you're looking kinda down. Is something wrong? What happened when you partied in Carlisle town? Oh, Gavin, you would not believe the trouble I am in. I got so drunk I made a bet I don't think I can win. Some spotty kid harassed me, and when he threw down the gauntlet, I could not resist and said I knew what women want.
So tell me a little bit more about the song, Poor Boy. As I say, it's not a song that I know. So where does it come from?
Well, I'm not sure where my mother got it from, because by the time I thought to ask her about these things, I didn't even sing this song for ages, because it didn't perform it myself, because it wasn't one of the songs I went and learned to, when I think about songs to do, I would hear a song and think, oh, that's a great song, I need to learn that and sing it myself. But that was just sort of in the background, and I didn't even think about doing my mother's songs until, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or so. And I'm in my 60s now. So when I finally thought to ask her, where did you get this song from? She had dementia.
Yeah.
And she couldn't tell me. She said that she went to a coffee house and heard someone singing it. But that is all I knew about it before I started trying to find out more. Oh, I can tell you one really good moment. My father went to a concert that she was performing in, and she was singing this song, and it got to a point where it was, I guess she'd started a little too high, or her voice wasn't cooperating that day, and so she couldn't reach the note, so she just pointed up.
That's a good way of doing it. I'm going to try that because that happens to me.
It's a good strategy, yes.
It is. So when would that have been, when she was performing?
I'd have to sit down and do the maths and figure out. I would guess if Burl Ives recorded it in 51, then probably it was in the early 50s.
That's amazing. So what else can you tell us about the song?
Over the years, I've tried to find out more information about it, and I would Google it and not come up with anything.
Mm.
And I think it's because my mother's version may have been slightly different. She sings, and I sing, "Hang down your head and cry."
Mm.
And so I would try to find out more by putting in a phrase, and Googling it. And when I did that, all that would come up was the "Hang Down Your Head, Tom Dooley" song, which has some similarities, but is still definitely a different song. And I couldn't find anything else. But I went to do some research on Mudcat, and I found out a number of interesting things. It seems that Carl Sandburg put out an American Song Bag in 1927, a book called American Song Bag.
Yeah.
And in that book, he had this song. It was called "Poor Boy." He took the tune and one verse from a woman called Kate Weber of Fort Smith, Arkansas, and the other verses were from Jack Hegarty of Los Angeles, and it seems to have been a prison song that people sang in prison. There are some similar songs. There's a fellow named Bruce Jackson who wrote a book called "Wake Up, Dead Man, Hard Labor and Southern Blues," and he collected 3 versions from Texas convicts in 1965, 1964, and 1966.
Gosh.
Although I've seen the songs that were collected, and I don't think they're that similar. They basically do involve a man who killed someone, and there was a woman involved, and there was gambling involved. But, well, I wouldn't say that's the same song. There are definitely similarities. I haven't heard the tunes for those songs, so that could make a difference. Apparently, also another name for this song is Coon Can.
Well, that's an unusual name.
It refers to a card game.
Oh.
And since we're talking Texas, which is quite close to Mexico, of course, there's apparently a card game from Mexico, a type of rummy, that was called Conquian. That's taken from con quien, which is means with whom. That's the Spanish translation. And someone else says there's a Chinese card game called Con Kin that could have been spread by Chinese laborers. I mean, there were a lot of Chinese working on the railroads.
Yeah.
But this song doesn't mention a card game at all. So it just says, talks about the woman he was chasing after, and she ran off with a gambling man.
Yeah. Unspecified gambling in your version.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the Penguin Book of American Folk Songs, Alan Lomax describes it as an American variant of the Anglo-Irish ballad, The Boston Burglar.
Ah.
And I have gone and listened to that song, and it is nothing like this. It is nothing like this song. Again, there's a guy who gets into trouble because he started gambling.
Yeah.
And that's really the tune's different, the words are different. So also on Mudcat, someone mentioned that Po Boy, which is P-O apostrophe boy, as opposed to poor boy, is a jail song in Oklahoma and Texas, and was also sung at the federal penitentiary in Leavenworth, Kansas.
Very much a jail song, and a song about someone who's really down on his luck by the sound of it.
Absolutely. And really interestingly, I did find some other recordings of it besides the Burr Lives recording. And one of them is Bow Down Your Head and Cry by a fellow named Charlie Walker. And it's a very upbeat, peppy version.
I can't quite imagine what that would be like. It's a fascinating history of the song. So, very much coming from the voices of people marginalised, down on their luck.
Yes. And there's one more source I found in the Max Hunter collection. They have a recording and written out music and words for Bow Down Your Head and Cry as sung by Loman Kanzler in Parkville, Missouri in 1957. And apparently he learned it from his grandfather.
It's amazing. So it seems to be a song that's found in lots of different places, lots of quite distant places.
They're not that far from each other. I mean, well...
It's a southern song.
Southern and western.
Yeah.
You know the old saying that the difference between Americans and Europeans is that Europeans think 200 miles is a long distance.
Yeah.
And Americans think 200 years is a long time.
That's brilliant. I've never heard that before.
I think Dick Gaughan said that. So,
that's fantastic.
So I say they're not that far apart, but then of course Texas is huge.
That's true. Oh, that's wonderful. It's great to hear the history of the song and some of the different versions. I'm really intrigued by what brings you to that song. Is it because of the memories of your mother? Is it something to do with the song itself? Is it a combination of the two?
In some ways it's sort of like I'm honoring my mother by singing it. Or honoring her memory.
Yeah.
And I didn't really appreciate it when I was younger. I just kind of took it for granted, but it's a really good song.
Yeah.
And it has a lot of passion in it. And it's a song of the underdog.
Yeah.
And injustice and, all the best folk songs. What more do you want in a folk song?
Yeah.
Death, passion, injustice, love lost.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been handed down to you from your mother. Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is one of the songs that the whole family would sit and sing together.
And it's so interesting as well, the way you describe it as a song about injustice, because I know that injustice is something you're very passionate about, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't really think about myself that way, but yeah, I'd agree with that. Another thing that is interesting about my mother's version of the song, I've noticed some of the differences in the words she uses and the words that other people use. And to be honest, the words I've seen in these other versions make a little bit more sense. There's a place where my mother would sing and I sing, "I followed her from town to town, I offered her my hand." And in the other versions I'm seeing, it's, "She offered me her hand."
Yeah.
And that probably makes a little more sense. There's another line, the way my mother sang it was, "And when the fight was over, the jury found him dead." And I'm finding that these other versions, they're singing, "He lay beside me dead." And in some ways that makes more sense, although there's a certain power in sort of the way it just jumps from and when the fight was over, and then suddenly you're in the courtroom. Again, the chorus in the songs I'm finding, it's "bow down your head and cry," and my mother sang "hang down your head and cry." So I don't know if she made those changes or whether she heard it that way. And if she did make those changes, whether it just happened without her realizing it, or whether it was a conscious choice.
Hang down your head and cry, poor boy. Hang down your head and cry. Stop thinking about the woman you love. Hang down your head and
Shall we talk about you more widely as a musician? Because, we said earlier on, I know you as a songwriter and a creator of hilarious parody songs. And you've talked about how that first started as part of your dance club. How long ago was that?
That would have been in the 1980s when I lived in Kansas City. Somebody who attended those Cayleys and those the Scottish country dancing, he was in a little band that played for international folk dancing and sang songs. And he mentioned my singing to the guy who ran that band, and he invited me to join it. So we sang a bunch of songs in Russian and Serbo-Croatian and Greek and Hebrew. There was an international folk dancing group that would meet every week, and they would have special occasions where they would have live music, and the band would play for that. And before that, when I was at the University of Kansas, I joined the Slavic folk dance group because I was doing international folk dancing and found out about that. And we sang lots of Russian songs and songs in Serbo-Croatian and that kind of thing. And those are just amazing songs. And they've got a different, their harmonies are different than ours. And they really vibrate sometimes. And they're what in the West we would consider dissonant. But wow, they're just wonderful. And they're so much fun to sing.
I had no idea that you sang those songs. Do you still sing them?
If there's an excuse, but there are things like Trudna la Rumjana and Shtomie Milo. When I go to singing sessions, I'm not sure what the tolerance would be for something that people can't understand. So I don't tend to sing them much these days.
Do you want to give us a little blast now?
Okay, I'll give you the first verse of Truknala Rumyana.
Wonderful.
Truknala Rumyana Zafodastu Denalele Truknala Rumyana Zavodastu Dena Vzevecher kusno polado vinalele Vzevecher kusno polado vina.
Thank you. That's lovely. What do the words mean?
I could look it up and tell you. I could look it up right now, actually. As a folk song, Truknala Rumyana is widely known in many variants in Macedonia, East Serbia, and Bulgaria.
Gosh.
And there's a dance that goes with it, which is why we were singing it.
Yeah.
Tells of a girl, Rumyana, who goes to fetch water in the morning coolness and the evening moonlight.
That's amazing. And did you come to those songs through the dancing, or is that
Yes.
somewhere in your family tradition as well?
I came to it through being in the Slavic folk dance group.
Yeah.
And doing the international dancing, and we would sing while we did the dance. My background is Russian and Polish.
Yeah.
It's actually Russian and Polish on each side, so I like to say I'm 2/4 Russian and 2/4 Polish. But we didn't. I didn't inherit any of those songs from my parents or grandparents.
Tell me, what are the kind of songs you like to sing? I can see you've got the American folk tradition. You've got the songs from the Slavic lands. Is that the right way to describe it?
Yeah. Well, I was much more interested in the English and British Isles songs than I was in the American ones, because the English ones and the Irish and Scottish ones were, quite exotic and romantic. And it wasn't until I came over here that I started singing American songs, because people over here, I thought it's like bringing coals to Newcastle.
Yeah.
Do people over here really want to hear me singing English songs? They're actually much more interested in hearing an American sing American songs. And so that was when I started kind of racking my brains to think, what American songs do I know? Oh, there are all these songs I learned from my mother.
Oh, great.
There's another one I learned from my mother that's quite funny. I'll just sing you a verse of it if you're interested. It's called Lolly Toodum. As I went out one morning to smell the pleasant air, lolly toodum, toodum, lolly toodum day. As I went out one morning to smell the pleasant air, I overheard a mother scolding her daughter fair, lolly toodum, toodum, lolly toodum day.
You recently got to record at Abbey Road. Tell us all about that.
There's a competition that got started during lockdown called Talent is Timeless. And it was started by a really lovely folk singer named Saskia Griffiths-Moore. And the winner of the competition got to record their song at Abbey Studios, and it was all paid for and arranged and everything. And Saskia set it all up, but Abbey Road, because of lockdown, was saying the smallest amount of studio time you can reserve is 3 days. And she came to us and said, anybody want to record at Abbey Road Studios? It'll cost X. There were a number of us who said, wow, yeah, how often do you get a chance to do something like that? And the thing is that you tell people you recorded there and they think, oh, you must be fabulous because they invited you to come record there. And no, actually, it's just if you're willing to pay what they charge, you can go record there.
And also, you're fabulous.
Oh, well, thank you.
The two are not mutually exclusive.
Well, thank you very much. So I went just because how many chances do you get to do something like that? And it was really very interesting and a lot of fun. You go in there, they have a number of different studios, and we were in sort of the little shoebox studio, the smallest one. But there are black and white photos, mostly black and white, all over the walls, in the corridors, in the dining room, everywhere, I think, but the studio we were in. I don't know about the other studios, of all the people who have recorded there. And it's just amazing there's just this real sense of history. And so you see these photos of the Beatles and Morecambe and Wise and just about any well-known recording artist, and they're just all on the walls. I would have taken some photos, but photos are strictly not allowed. When there's signs on all the doors and the walls when you come in saying no photos allowed. And I guess it makes sense because if somebody well-known is recording there, they probably don't want to be bothered by people asking for photos or taking photos without permission. So
yeah, that's a fair point. And it preserves the mystique as well, doesn't it?
Well, yes, it does, doesn't it?
Tell me about the song you recorded there.
Well, I wrote a song called Interesting Times. That was as a result of another songwriting competition, which is held in Whitby every year. It's called the John Birmingham Cup, and it's in memory of John Birmingham. And he used to sing at the Cumberland Arms in Newcastle. Mm-hmm. And when he died, he left some money behind to encourage people to write unaccompanied songs. Mm. So it's for unaccompanied songs, and it's to be sung by the person who wrote it. And it's not important whether you have a good voice or not. It's supposed to be judged on the quality of the song. Mm. In 2020, the competition was held online, not surprisingly. It's generally held at the Whitby Folk Festival every year. The final round is they have heats at festivals around the country during the summer. And then in Whitby, the finalists sing and the song gets picked. So it was a bit different in 2020, and they said, we're not going to have a proper competition, but we're going to ask people to write a song about 2020. Mm. And so that was what prompted me to write Interesting Times. And I was just thinking not just about the pandemic, but the other things that have been going on the last couple of years with more populist candidates getting into office in the US and in the UK, and how facts and truth don't seem to matter as much as they used to. And I thought, there's more than one kind of infection in the air these days. And there's a Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. Mm. That's what inspired the song. I should mention, I recorded that with a sound engineer I know in Derbyshire whose name is James Singleton, and he's very good. It was all recorded and ready to go, and I was taking this course with Saskia. It was a course on taking a song from zero to arranging it, producing it, recording it, and then what you need to do afterwards in terms of PR. I've been thinking about releasing a CD with mostly my own songs for years now, but not quite been sure how to go about it, especially because I sing a cappella and I'm not in a band. So when I saw this course, I thought, oh, that looks really interesting, and it looks like I could learn a lot. So I went and recorded the song with James, and then as part of the course, they had an A&R guy, and he listened to our songs and gave us feedback. And the feedback he gave me was that he'd be really interested in hearing the song with some really bang up-to-date verses. Because I'd written the song in 2020 and I didn't record it until 2021, and sort of verses out of today's headlines. And at first I thought, well, I've already recorded it and I don't think I can change it. And then this Abbey Road opportunity came up, and I thought, well, what I could do is record some new verses, and my sound engineer could drop them in for me. But I messed up.
Oh, no.
So I went and I sang it there, but I sang it in the wrong key.
Oh.
So there was no way to make them work together. I think I just got so excited that somehow I just, I don't know how I did it, but anyway. So, and they also had somebody there videoing us, and I wanted the video to help promote the song when I released it, because it's nice to have a video to go along with it. So the video is from Abbey Road, but the sound is not. This is my shameful secret. And I talked to the guy who was doing the video and said, I would still like to use this video. Is there any way on the bits where I'm singing, on the verses where I'm singing something different, because some of the verses were the same and some of the verses were different. There's a place about 3 minutes walk from where I live. It's a vast stretch of wall with wonderful graffiti on it. And if I go take photos of all this graffiti and send you the photos, can you put in those photos when I'm singing the verses that don't match?
The secrets of the recording industry
Yes.
laid bare.
And he was really nice about it, and so that's what he did. So that is why I have a video from Abbey Road, but the sound is not from Abbey Road. But when I posted the video, it's like a really long explanation, and most people probably aren't that interested. So
it's all about the mystery and the story.
So
and it's a great story.
So that is the shameful truth.
You heard it here first.
Yes.
Brilliant. Oh, where can people find that video? Have you got a website?
Yes. My website is www.yorkshireyankee.com.
That's a great name for a website, a great
And,
domain name.
well, my mudcat nickname was Yorkshire Yankee because I'm a transplanted Yank living in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
So when I started thinking about, trying to come up with something memorable for a website, I thought, actually, I think Yorkshire Yankee is much more memorable than Vikki, Appleton, Fielden. So that's where they can find it. And it's all one word, of course, just YorkshireYankee.com.
That's brilliant. And we'll put that in the show notes as well so people can find it there.
It's in the air, it's everywhere. My love, we live in interesting times, and anyone at all can share it. Alas, we live in interesting times. Some are worried, call for change. My love, we live in interesting times. Others laugh and see no danger. Alas, we live in interesting times. If you got gold, you can buy the news. My love, we live in interesting times, and facts can be whatever you choose. Alas, we live in interesting times.
I really like writing parodies, and though I have been writing my own songs for a while now, I still love doing parodies. Well, actually, one that was irresistible in December was It's My Party and I'll Lie If I Want To. And you can guess what that's about.
I couldn't possibly comment, but yeah, I think we all know.
So there was a very steep learning curve when I moved to Sheffield from the Detroit area. And I thought because I loved watching English television programs on the public broadcasting station, so I thought I knew English words like lift and lorry, and then I got here, and oh my gosh, there were so many words that but the thing that gets you is not the words that you don't know. The real problem is the words that you think you know what it means, but it means something quite different here in the UK. So a fine case in point is pants.
Yes.
I learned very quickly to say trousers instead of pants.
Yep.
But there are a whole bunch of words like that. And there are also Yorkshire words and Sheffield words. So, for example, in Sheffield, people use the word while to mean until.
Yeah. Yeah, you get that.
Are you familiar with that?
I am, because you get that in Hull as well, where I'm from. And it confuses people
right.
who are in the south.
Yes, yes. So I wrote a song about the differences between US and UK English, and I used Rodgers and Hammerstein's My Favorite Things to carry it. So it's to that tune, and it's all about the differences in language.
Amazing. I haven't heard that, so I'm really looking forward to hearing that.
You
one.
haven't?
No,
Oh,
I must
gosh.
have missed it.
I can sing you the first verse.
Oh, yeah, do.
Okay. Jelly is jam here and jello is jelly. The car has a boot and my foot wears a welly. Mention sultanas, I think Eastern kings. Don't know the words for my favorite things.
That's brilliant. We're just about to hear your version of Poor Boy. Is there anything that you'd like to say about your performance of it?
My mother, when she sang it, really would get passionate towards the end of the song and focus on the injustice of it. And I try to do that too. Although sometimes I wonder if it's too much. Oh, and I do remember something I meant to say about the song. There's a bit that my mother used to sing, and I can't remember it well enough, and I can't ask her about it. She used to sing a sort of bridge, so I'll sing you that bit, but I don't include it because I'm not too sure of it, especially because it doesn't rhyme. So I can't remember if she sang it and it didn't rhyme and I just don't remember that, or if she sang it and there's a line I don't remember that did rhyme. But after the judge says you must die, she would sing, "A crooked judge, whatever can I do? I was only fixin' to kill a man who was a fixin' to kill me." And that repeats a line that's already in there, so I'm not quite sure how to put it together. I wish I could remember the other bit because it's a really nice dramatic bit, but I don't know if I should write something to put in there. The other thing is that I don't think she sang, well, I've sort of evened it out in terms of the chorus when I sing it so that it's easier for people to join in. So she would vary it a bit more when she sang it.
That bridge, there might be people listening who know something about that. So let's see if we can track it down through our listeners. That would be great. And when you talk about being passionate at the end about the injustice and it may be a bit too much, I just think, can you ever be too passionate about injustice?
Well, it depends whether it serves the purpose of the song.
That's very true. Spoken like a true performer.
If it distracts from the song, then it's maybe not the best way to go about it. But, different people have different opinions as well. One person might think, oh, that's way over the top. And somebody else might think, oh, no, that's brilliant. So
that's the... That's a risk you take, isn't it, when you sing a song?
Yes. Yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, thank you so much for being on the show,
Well,
Vikki.
thank you.
It's been lovely talking to you.
Really good talking with you. And thank you so much for doing these podcasts as well. It's such a lovely idea.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Still in the early days, but I'm enjoying it and I think people are enjoying it. So it's all good. We're back next month with another interview episode and a story-based show about a notorious woman of olden times. So we'll see you then. If you like the podcast, do tell people about it. And also do feel free to give us a rating as well on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or anywhere that gives podcast ratings. But in the meantime, here is Vikki, Appleton, Fielden with Poor Boy.
As I went down to the river one day to watch the ships sail by, my sweetheart stood on the deck of one and waved to me goodbye. Hang down your head and cry, poor boy. Hang down your head and cry. Stop thinking about the woman you love. Hang down your head and cry. I followed her from town to town. I offered her my hand. And when the chase was over, she ran off with a gambling man. Hang down your head and cry, poor boy. Hang down your head and cry. Stop thinking about the woman you love. Hang down your head and cry. He came for me with a big Bowie knife. I went for him with lead. And when the fight was over, the jury found him dead. Hang down your head and cry, poor boy. Hang down your head and cry. Stop thinking about the woman you love. Hang down your head and cry. They took me to the old jailhouse. Weeks and months went by. Then the jury found me guilty, and the judge said you must die. Hang down your head and cry, poor boy. Hang down your head and cry. Stop thinking about the woman you love. Hang down your head and cry. So this, they say, is justice, poor boy. Well, justice, let it be. I was only fixin' to kill a man who was a fixin' to kill me. Hang down your head and cry, poor boy. Hang down your head and cry. Stop thinking about the woman you love. Hang down your head and cry. Stop thinking about the woman you love. Hang down your head and cry.